I'll stick it on there for you.
Okay.
I want to welcome you to another episode of the Warzone and tell you thank you for taking time out to tune in, because you know without you good people, there would not be a show tonight. You see, we got two people on the screen, and my good friend Demetria Coulter is back in the building, and of course one of the greatest guests we've ever had on the Warzone. Man, come light it up every single time. My good friend Pastor Thadeus Mathews, but y'all know him as the Cussing Pastor, and it is what it is. D, talk to him.
So hello, everybody. I thank Gary for inviting me on to have this discussion with him and Thadeus Mathews, also known as the Cussing Pastor. Of course, you guys know who he is, and if you don't, shame on you. He is internationally known as not biting his tongue at all and saying exactly what is on his mind. Yes, you heard it right. He is a pastor, but as he says, he is not your grandmother's pastor. And I would definitely say that he is not. Mr. Mathews does deliver the word in a way that we need it, especially in today's times. We are not dealing with the same type of people, I would say, that we were dealing with when your grandmama was going to church. And so we are glad to have him here. Of course, we are just going to have an open dialogue. Of course, you guys know there's a lot of things trending. And so we want to kind of get his opinion, as we know he will not hold back. And so, Thadeus, how are you doing this fine evening?
I'm simply marvelous today. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. So, Gary, you ready?
I'm ready to go. Say, man, it's been a minute since you've been here. A lot of things didn't happen, you know. And like Demetria said, I mean, you're definitely not the pastor that my grandmother would have grew up on. But you know what? You the type of pastor that I go to your church every Sunday because I know I'm gonna get the real. You ain't gonna sugarcoat it, and it is what it is.
Well, I just believe in telling it just like it is. And at my age now, hell, I ain't no reason to tell no lie.
Well, I tell you what, man, we're gonna touch on a few subjects. Of course, politics is a big thing right now. A lot of people are not happy. We came out of the pandemic, and I think we kind of came out worse than before we went in. Food prices are through the roof. I refuse to buy eggs. I love eggs, but I'm not paying $5 for 12 eggs. That's not gonna happen. I go buy a fucking pregnant chicken before I do that. I'm not finna do it. I'm not gonna play it. What do you think, Pastor? Where was the breakdown at? With all this stuff that didn't happen since the pandemic started, how can we get this thing kind of back to normal or back, kind of balanced to where we can afford to put gas in our cars?
Well, I call it a plandemic, and not so much as a pandemic. Getting back, I don't think that this country or the world will be ever back to where we were prior to 2 years ago. I think that we're here. We've got to find ways to deal with it the way it is. If you like eggs, hell, you're going to have to just either find that damn pregnant chicken or come up off that money at the grocery store and pay $5 for 2 eggs. We're stuck where we are. Nothing is going to be the same. Hell, folks don't want to go to work. So when you go out to eat, the service is slow or it's bad because there's not enough personnel there. Folks don't want to go to the church no more. So we're just in a new age, and we might as well get used to the place that we are.
Well, you said something profound, that a lot of people ain't go back to the church after the pandemic. And I think they were just looking for an escape route. They figured out some of these Negroes running these churches was robbing.
Well, I do virtual church now. I get up, come up my stairs, cut on my cameras, and then have church right there on the screen. I think that many people were looking for a reason to not to be there for the building fund and the tithes and the offerings and the big hat day and the little hat day. I think that people have come to understand that you can serve God in your own building and not go to the church building.
Demetri?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, in regards to, the way things are as far as pricing now, I don't think it's ever going to go back either. And we've been told for a very long time, by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, store your food and your water. And now here we are where people are really having to make tough decisions going to the grocery store. And we're also seeing, like in Southern California, where I'm from, you're seeing like unprecedented weather. Southern California, people are snowed in, even to the point in some places where they cannot get out and go to the store. Now, the question is, did they prepare? And I think that's the larger question. Are we preparing? What if you can't go to the store? What if there are no more eggs? What if, for whatever reason, there's no more water? What are we going to do? Who's going to save us?
He's having connection issues, but I think, that a lot of this was planned. I mean, there's stuff that's coming out now and people want to discredit it. But, when you're dealing with that eye in the sky, someday those cameras that pick up a little bit of everything, you can't deny all of that.
I was knocked off for some reason. Huh?
Yeah. You can't deny all of that. And I agree. We are where we are. They're not going to change it. They're making money hand over foot. And the poor people just gonna get the business. But if you were smart and you saved up and you stored like you were supposed to store, then life goes on. I mean, it just goes on. I'm gonna ask you. You're in what city are you in, Pastor?
Memphis.
What the hell is going on in Memphis with Ja Morant, man? Have you spoken to him?
With who?
The basketball player that looks like he's about to kick himself out of the NFL. I mean, out the NBA.
He done lost his motherfucking mind, man. Man, here's what's happening as I see it. You wasn't used to no money. You come to Memphis, Tennessee, and now you're multi-millionaire, but you're running with these broke-ass Negroes that ain't got nothing, won't never have nothing, and don't want to see you with anything. So he's gotten caught up in this situation of wanting to be a gangster, wanting to be accepted, and his daddy, with his Ursha looking ass, ain't leading and directing him in the proper way, because his dad has become a groupie. His daddy wants to be a celebrity. He wants to be accepted by the NBA and NBA stars. But I think that Jay has been led down a wrong track, and hopefully after he told on himself by broadcasting live that he's got a gun, I'm hoping that he's come to his senses and that he will attempt to change his life or reconcile some situations in his life.
Well, I think if he doesn't understand where he at. Memphis ain't to be played with. And at the end of the day, he's still out of town to a whole bunch of people. So if he running with the wrong cats, he gonna end up in some stuff. And some people even are saying, especially on the internet, he's headed down the wrong path, and he might end up with the same fate as my guy. What's his name? That the rapper that died, Young Dolph.
Yeah. I don't think it's that serious with him. I think that he's gotten with a rapper here, and he just wants to be accepted by the wrong crowd, not people that can level up to his bank account. You know, when you get that much money, it's just certain Negroes you got to turn loose. And I think that he came here and befriended or was befriended by the wrong people, and he just wants to be a part of the crowd.
Let me ask this because, and I'm going to ask this to you, Pastor. Daddy is a groupie, and I think everybody's kind of said that. The mama's silly. Sounds like she called him up to the mall or something when a security guard was giving her hassle, and they got into it and all of that. Now, do you think they're more of yes people, like a yes man? Because a lot of times we see when people get money, people around them tend to be afraid to say, hey, you need to sit your ass down, because they're afraid to get cut off from the money. Because that's kind of how I see the situation. What do you think?
Well, that's the same way that I see it. I think that his parents have become groupies, and they are fearful of disciplining him because he's their money ticket. He's probably taking care of his mama, and we see that his daddy is a groupie. So they're not giving him proper instruction because they don't want to alienate the money. It ain't so much him. They don't want to alienate the Montes. And I think that they feel as though if they are too harsh on him as a grown man, 23 years old, that he's going to step back and say, I don't need you, and I ain't going to take care of you.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to slide from Memphis to Fort Worth, Texas, because the hottest dude in the country right now is Charleston White. And a lot of people have a problem with Charleston. I really don't have a problem with Charleston. I know Charleston. I know how he feels. I know how he thinks some days. Not all the time. But is Charleston White detrimental to himself? Or is he really just telling the truth about what he's seeing?
Well, that would be like asking me, am I detrimental to myself? If that's the way he feels and he speaks his feelings, who is to say that he's wrong? You know, this society, especially Black folk, we're used to the sugarcoating, the political correctness, not wanting to hurt anybody's feelings. And sometimes you got to say, damn your feelings, this is what it is, and tell the truth. So I think that Charleston has a place. Apparently he has a place. Many people watch what he say and what he do. And I think that as long as you're saying what you feel, you got that right to say it.
Well, of course, you know, Charleston White is very outspoken. Some people call him a troll. You know, he has followers and he has haters, if you will. I think he says a lot of things that needs to be said. My only issue with him, and I guess it's a big issue at this point, is I don't like how he spoke on Farrakhan and, you know, continuing to accuse Farrakhan and the nation of the death of Malcolm X. And, you know, basically saying Farrakhan hasn't really done much. And so I'm one of those people, if you speak against Farrakhan, then I'm probably not going to listen to you too much, because we know that Farrakhan has been in the trenches, you know, most of his life, well over 60 years. And it's been proven by the FBI that the nation had nothing to do with the death of Malcolm. In fact, the government has paid the men that were in prison, I think it's $26 million between them, in addition to Malcolm's family suing for $100 million due to what was done to Malcolm. And so that's kind of where I stopped listening to Charleston White when he says things like that.
Well, you know, as a believer in the minister, I don't think that anything that the minister has said is detrimental, especially to us as a people. But again, I I allowed Charleston to have his opinion. That's Charleston's opinion of the minister and the nation. Mine is totally the opposite of that. But I am not going to come down on anybody for speaking their mind. I don't have to agree with you, like many don't agree with much of that I say. But I'm never going to tell you you didn't have a right to say it.
Yeah, Charleston is he's who he is, and that's like me. I say some controversial things some days, and I do controversial things. But at the end of the day, as long as I'm cool with it, I really don't care who like it.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, I don't give a damn.
Right.
Let me actually move this conversation to Mexico. Now, I know you guys have been following the news, and we have learned that 4 Americans got into some hot water in a part of Mexico I can't pronounce at this moment, that is known for drug cartels. And so those 4 Americans happen to be Black. They went from Myrtle Beach, South Carolina via Brownsville, Texas to enter into Mexico. Now, one of them, a woman with 5 children, went to have what they call a tummy tuck, although I think it was a BBL. They were mistaken for Haitian drug dealers, and I guess some gang where the gun violence broke out, and 2 of the 4 people were killed in that, and the other 2 were kidnapped. They have now found the bodies of the 2 that were killed, and the 2 surviving ones, they, I guess, are now being transported to Texas. And so the mother of the lady who with the 5 kids is going over there for the BBL, she was like, I told them not to go. And, I guess she had some male friends that went with her to kind of help. I don't know. It didn't seem like they protected her very well. But, Pastor, I want to ask you, what's really going on there? I mean, it's like we don't research anymore. I mean, anybody kind of knows, heard about the drug cartels over there in Mexico. And we have this BBL, I don't know what it is, explosion everywhere. So what's your opinion on what I just said about all of that?
I don't think much of it. I haven't followed it that much. But you need to know where you're going. Why were you going there? That's my question. Why were you even on your way there? What's your reason? If you know that the various drug cartels is in that area, hell, if you want, what's the BBL now?
That's where women and some men nowadays are getting the extra big butts and the thighs, and they're getting their tummies, flattened.
Big butt.
Huh?
Why would a man want a big butt?
Oh, there's some men out there with BBLs. They're fashionably involved, to say the least. They're homosexual, I would say.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, I guess if that's your lifestyle, I guess it's okay to have a big butt. But I mean, hell, go somewhere else and get you a big butt. Is Mexico the only place that's giving out big butts now?
Well, see, the problem is this. There's a lot of people go to different countries like the Dominican Republic, Mexico, because it's a lot cheaper. So for what I understand, on average, you can go to like a foreign country and get it for like $5,000, right? But over in the States, that surgery is pretty pricey, like, $20,000 or so, give or take. And so they often go over to these other countries because it's cheaper.
Well, it look like you need to be satisfied with the butt you got.
I mean, I totally agree with you. And the woman that was going over there with the 5 children is like, the one you got your 5 kids. What else you trying to get?
Somebody like a butt already, don't it?
Yeah. So yeah. All right. So I have maybe a little bit more of a serious question to ask. Of course, we heard about
y'all do this interview. I'm gonna take a break real quick.
Okay.
Well, now I gotta leave early now because I got a show coming up at 7:00.
All right, we ain't gonna be here too long. So of course, we've all by now heard about Tyree Nichols, the young man that was murdered by the police officers there in Memphis. And I follow your show. We also know how you were robbed of the credit. And I would say you were robbed of the credit because if it was not for you and the attention that you brought to the case, I mean, I don't know how far it would have gotten. Of course, we know by now it's internationally known and things like that. Has anybody, I guess, reached out to you? Because I've seen a couple of news outlets, they did give you credit, but the people who will ultimately benefit, from the lawsuit that will go forward. And let's be honest, Benjamin Crump will see a pretty penny, from the results of that. So have any of them reached out to you, even if it's privately, and said anything to you?
No. And I don't think that I will. I'm sure that Ben Crump has a problem with me because I see him for what he is. He's an ambulance chaser. I don't know why every case that's similar to this go and get Ben Crump. I also have made the statement when it comes to Tyree Nichols that it said that he has a minor child that's 4 years old. Now, I see the mama and the stepdaddy want to file a lawsuit. But any monies that come from a wrongful death lawsuit would have to go and be put in trust for that minor child. So I think that this whole ordeal has turned into how much money can we get. It just came over today that the police department here have finished their investigation. There's another 20 hours of tape that is going to be released. We're told that now that 2 other police officers have been fired. So I think that there is a lot to do with this case that deals with the city of Memphis covering up and making the attempts to cover up much in this particular case.
Yeah, and as far as you're saying with Ben Crump, I think what a lot of people don't realize, and I'm not saying this about you, I know is that Benjamin Crump actually is a civil rights attorney, not a criminal attorney, because a lot of times people say, oh, he doesn't win any cases. Well, that's not necessarily his job. To win cases is to get the money. And so we know that he came onto the scene, was it like 2012 with the Trayvon Martin case? Right. And he is worth well over $200 million, just from, like you said, ambulance chasing. And I like what you asked on your show. Is Benjamin Crump the only thing in town?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I look at the Nichols family. Hell, they had 2 funerals. Okay. The hell. With no body, they cremated the boy. So the second funeral was for public sentiment. They placed an empty casket at the front of the church. They bring the vice president, that was nice, who, as they said, quote unquote, wasn't scheduled to speak. But when she got up on the stage, hell, she was reading over somebody's notes. Okay. So I think that much of what we're dealing with is a charade that is going to get Crump paid. Now, this is an election year in the city of Memphis. So by the time they go to where the money is going, what the city is going to agree with, you're going to have another mayor in the seat. So I want to see how that works out.
Now, how do you think they'll go about circumventing or not giving the money to the child? Because you're absolutely right. The child is the next of kin. That's just the law. And that money should go in trust for the child. So how do you think they're going to get around that?
They can't. State law mandates that the child, when there is no spouse, the next of kin would not be the mama. Her wearing a hat in the church husband, he don't get nothing. It's going to be, the state has an obligation to make sure that that child is taken care of. So there is no way to circumvent it. I don't think that Crump likes the conversation, but hell, when you get your 33rd and a third percent plus your expenses, hell, Al Sharpton didn't come to Memphis for free. So there's a lot of expenses in this. Will they get paid? Yes. Will all 5 of the officers receive the same punishment? No, I don't think so. I think that there's one particular officer, the one that we see pull him out the car. I think that that particular officer will get the brunt of the charges. And he's up for a long time in prison. But they've got 2 of the best white lawyers in the area working their case. 2 individuals. One, when I got a Negro I wouldn't hire if I had a traffic citation. But and he just lost in the Cheryl Wright case. So it's going to be interesting. They go back to court May 1st. So this is a case that's going to go at least another year.
So let me ask you about the white officer, because when we first learned about it, of course, you know, we heard about the 5 black officers. And then when we saw the video, it was like, oh, that it was a white officer who, you know, had the taser. And in fact, he kind of, you know, to me, and I could be wrong, he kind of gave the charge, you know, I hope they stomp his ass. And,
right,
you know, it kind of sent them off to do it. So, I mean, what is your thoughts on that? Do you think that perhaps he incited it? Because doesn't he also have a higher rank? Was he a detective, if I'm not mistaken?
No, he doesn't have a higher rank, but I think you could give him a choir robe. I'm sure that right now he's singing through his attorney about what went on with the so-called Scorpion unit of the Memphis Police Department. I think that was a purpose that he was left there to watch the cars. And he ought to be glad that he was not there on the scene. But I think that in this investigation, you're going to find out much more than what we already know. You know, because the biggest thing comes in, why was the stop on Tyree Nichols made that night? What triggered that other officer to get out of his car, parked on the side of Nichols, and start pushing him out of the car? When we see Preston Hemphill, the white officer, arrive on the scene, do we know that he even know what was going on other than seeing a fellow officer dealing with Tyree Nichols? We don't know. And I think all of this is going to come up. I think that the white officer, Hemphill's attorney, is going to say he didn't know what was going on. He arrived on the scene. He sees a fellow officer in trouble and pulled out his taser to protect that particular officer. I think that that's going to be the lie that is told on his behalf.
Let me ask you this too. How did Memphis get it wrong in hiring CJ Davis, especially with her misgivings, if you will, in Atlanta with that particular unit? And then how did they allow her to form another unit like the one that was in trouble in Atlanta?
Well, first of all, she got here because the mayor didn't follow my telling him she's a fuck up from the start up. I mentioned all of these things that had happened in Atlanta. She was not even supposed to be in the process. She failed the initial interview. The mayor, Jim Strickland, went back and got her. He handpicked her. He can't say he was looking for a woman because there was a woman in the running that had pulled the application, that had been a police officer in Memphis over 25 years. She was a deputy commander. So you couldn't say that you wanted a woman. This mayor wanted someone that he could manipulate. And that's what he got.
So I know you got to get out of here, but I've been having this conversation with a few people lately because, as we know, especially in our community, things are just like really out of hand, and especially in regards to parents and grandparents. And I always ask this, so maybe you can help me. Where have all the big mamas and the big papas gone? Now, of course, we know who Big Mama, Big Papa are. They are the ones, when they say something, that's it, right? They knew how to snatch a knot in us and get us under control, but we don't see that as much anymore. So what happened?
Well, all the grandmamas now 35 years old. That's what happened. You know, that woman that had that jiggly meat on her arms, that was Big Mama. Okay. We have too many parents now that want to be friends with their children. There is no level of respect. There is no level of parental fear. You don't have parents that will knock the hell out you. I got whoopings with skillets, brooms, wet towels. I got my ass tore up. You don't have that. There is no discipline anymore. And I always say that when a baby comes in the world, the doctor smacks him on his ass to give him life. Why is it that we are so fearful to hit that same ass and maintain life? And then I'm going to tell you another thing. When the babies, the black babies, came off of the titty and went on that infamous formula. Now look at that word, formula. White folk came up with formula, and that's what's keeping us incarcerated. You took him off your titty. Well, some of them was filled with crack anyway, but you took him off of the titty and you put him on this infamil and all these other kinds of meals. And this is a generation of the criminal. You got parents who are fearful of their children. How do you feed a child that you're scared of? How do you clothe a child that you have a fear of? You tremble when they say something to you. You let their grown ass stay in your house. This is what, until we come back, first of all, to come back to God. God looking at us and saying, y'all some damn fools. I told you to train him up in the way that he should go, not in the way that he wants to go. And what you teach him won't depart it. You know, I'll be 66 years old in a few weeks. And I'm still maintaining all of them old women prayers and their teaching to me. Don't tell me that a woman can't raise a man. I never knew my father, and I did pretty good. I had some good fuck ups along the way. But what kept me from robbing, from stealing, carjacking, was the right and wrong that I was given as a child. And the consequences of my actions would be this if you do that.
Absolutely. And before you go, I know that with, my sister, she's a school teacher, and I don't know how much longer she's going to be able to do it. She's got about 4 years until retirement, but every day she's like, my sister, she's a school teacher. And unfortunately, because the children are not well behaved or disciplined at home, they are sent to school, and the teachers are expected to teach the child and discipline the child. Yes. And if God forbid they try to discipline the child, then the child get mad. They go home and tell their mom, and then the mama want to come up there and whoop on the teacher. So it's like, no wonder, we're turning out people, especially children in the school system, that cannot learn because they are spending time being disciplined. So what's your opinion on that before you go?
Beat their ass. See, when we had good ass whoopings going on, I come up through the era where we had the paddle. Me and teachers were not someone that was 2 years, 3 years older than me. We had grown men in the system. When you start looking for these youngsters and giving them jobs in the school system, that's the reason that you have so much sex among teachers and students. Hell, you ain't but 3 years older than I am. But when we go back to taking the educational system and put it in the hands of grown people that want to be educators, then we can fight some of this. But you can't fight it. Teachers go to work. They don't want to be there because they spend too much time having to holler at your child. Set your ass down. Be quiet. Don't do this. Don't do that. By the time the hour or 45 minutes or whatever it is, period of class is over, hell, you ain't learned nothing because the whole period was nothing but hollering and chastising of the students that didn't come to learn in the first place.
Absolutely. Well, I know you got to go. I don't know what happened to Gary, but I had a good time speaking with you, and I know those watching also enjoyed you. I know you're going to be on your show in about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
What are you talking about tonight?
Really, I don't know. It's so much going on in Memphis. But just go to my YouTube channel, the Thadeus Mathews YouTube channel. It'll be raw. It'll be controversial. Now, if you come to my page looking for me to be a nice guy and don't cuss, talk about be philosophical and all that shit, don't come. Because I get down and dirty. I get in the trenches with subjects, especially when I'm dealing with subjects dealing with our children and with our people.
I saw a case it was in the news in Memphis as a guy by the name of Octavius Henderson. I guess he got arrested because he was doing donuts near a school. Donuts is driving erratically, of course, spinning in circles in a truck in front of a school where he nearly hit some children. And they racked up a whole host of charges against him. And they said when they looked in his car, they found catalytic converters and other car parts. So I don't know. That may be a story.
I deal with crime here in Memphis. Last week we had a 12-year-old that was arrested. He was breaking in cars. The week before that, we had an 11-year-old. When they got the 12-year-old in the back of the police car after the man whose car it was shot him. He had a warrant for his arrest. So how in the hell does a 12-year-old have a warrant? And where the sorry ass mammy at?
Yeah, that is absolutely crazy. Yeah, carjackings are going up everywhere. Of course, in Washington, D.C., people are mad at Joe Biden, people being Democrats, because he's, I guess, agreed with the tougher stance on crime there in Washington, D.C. that would make it penalties and punishment harsher for, you know, certain crimes, and carjacking is one of them. But they're saying, well, you know, we need to find other measures because it's a lot of children that are now participating in these carjackings there.
You know, so what? I'm of the firm belief, blow his ass off. I don't give a damn if he's 10 years old. If you break in my house, I'm busting a cap in your ass. I'll preach your funeral. If you need I'll sing at the funeral, whatever you need. But I don't look at the age. I look at what you're trying to do to me. And to thine ass be true. If you can't raise that heathen, then we got to kill him. That's the only deterrent that we have, is to start busting a cap in these children. Because they know what they're doing. They're armed. And being shot by a 10, 12 years old is deadly as being shot by a 60-year-old man. Dead ain't nothing but dead.
You right about that, Pastor. So for those of you guys who are asking, where can you catch the Cussing Pastor? He is on YouTube under Thadeus Mathews. And I believe it's the page that has almost 70,000 followers on there. Yep. He's on there 7 p.m. Central Time. So that's in roughly 20 minutes or so. He should be on there. If you have not subscribed to his channel, please do so. He always brings, as he says, the naked truth, very raw, but very much needed. So we love and appreciate you for coming on here again. I apologize. I do not know what happened to Gary, but he missed out.
Yeah. Well, you know, I ain't got no problem. We'll do this again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would love to have you back.
Thank you so much for the invite.
You're welcome. I'll watch your show in a little bit.
Thank you. All right.
All righty. Bye-bye. So those of you guys who are watching, I do not know what happened to Gary, but until he comes back, because we can't cut it off till he comes back, I will read you guys' questions, comments, and concerns, and I'll answer them as best I can. And Bingo Stripper, how you doing? He said, Demetra sounds like she wants to free everyone. Well, can you point to the part of the conversation where I said I want to free everyone? I was just stating what I know as far as Washington, D.C. and what they're trying to do as far as being tougher on crime. But I never once said I wanted everybody to be free. I'm a firm believer that if you commit a crime, yes, you should pay for it. However, I think we need to take into account that Joe Biden is, you know, the crime bill syndicate. Let's just keep it real. Joe Biden is very tough on crime. He has always been. He says he is the author of every major and minor crime bill since 1976. We know that when we hear tough on crime, that usually means tough on Black people. So I have some concerns with it. However, I have some concerns with it because it's like we want to be tough on crime. When I say we, I'm talking about society, and I guess in this case, Washington. But why aren't they addressing the ills or the lack of resources that are in those communities? Because we know when there's a lack of resources, there tends to be higher crime. It's just a fact. And so I don't have a problem with people paying for the things that they do, or, you know, the crimes that they commit. But I do have a problem with the a lot of the reason. I'm not saying it's the total reason, but a lot of the reasons why the crimes are being committed, I have a problem with those things not being addressed. Because ask yourself, how high is the crime in the rich neighborhoods that you live in? You live in California, Beverly Hills, or Texas, Houston, River Oaks. Is the crime very high there? And if not, ask yourself why. What are they doing differently than they're doing in our neighborhoods per se? All right, so who else has some questions on here? Until Gary comes back, I guess I will answer questions as best I can. Let me go back through here and see if anyone asked a question or a comment. Thunder, I saw you. And how you doing, by the way? You said with the Tussie deodorant. Yeah, Big Mama wore Tussie deodorant. I saw that you had a question, but I don't see it on here, I don't think, anymore. But as I said, I will answer your questions. I'll say, let's see here. Janelle says, when are blacks going to hold their thugging cousins accountable for crime? Yeah, I think that's an issue. Unfortunately, in our community, I don't want to say we don't like to hold each other accountable. That's what we do. But I think because sometimes we are so focused on all the other things that go on with us as far as white supremacy, systemic and institutional racism, we are kind of painted as the victim a lot, but we don't tend to focus as much, I would say, and I could be wrong, on the victimization that we do to each other. Now, I'm not one to espouse the black on black crime trope, because if we have black on black crime, then you also have white on white crime, you have Asian on Asian, and so on and so forth. We know that crime is about proximity. However, when we know that our people are not doing right, we need to be in the position to say, hey, you might not want to do that. Because for one, if you commit a crime, don't call me for bail money, right? Most of us had moms or dads that was like, listen, you've been raised right up until this point, and if you get out there and commit a crime and you need to go to jail and you don't have no bail, don't call me, because I gave you all the instructions you need. As the pastor said, raise up a child that in the way that it should go, that way when it's old, it will not depart from it. And so if you've been raised in that way and you get out there and you do something, you've already been warned. Hey, don't call me, right? So, but we do need to, basically, it starts with our children, right? It's kind of harder to get out there and tell a grown man, hey, you might not want to be out there committing crimes. That starts with your children at home. You give them the right things that they need to get out there to be productive citizens in society, right? It starts at home from the cradle. All right. Thunder says, we men need to take control again. And if anyone jumps up to stop us, let them taste the back of the hand. This must stop. This matriarchal system is not working. And so when you say matriarchal system, he's talking about our community in that it is led by the Black woman. And I would agree with you in that we are, in fact, I think the only community that is led predominantly by the woman. Every other community, their men are in a leadership role. Now, I think we need to ask, why is our community matriarchal, and that the woman, even in a lot of the protests and things like that, you typically see nowadays, you didn't used to see it like when Martin Luther King and them was out there, but you typically see a lot of women on the front line. And we know that the single mothership in our community is higher than it is in other communities. And so we need to ask ourselves, why? What has happened? Now, some people say, because they always say, feminism, oh, Black women bought into feminism. Oh, Black women, they bought into the getting the food stamps and the social services. And I always ask, what woman in her right mind do you know is going to give up a man with a good job taking care of the family for a welfare check and food stamps, right? So it's a combination of things as to why our community is matriarchal, but we also have to admit that it is by design. And our community did not just become matriarchal. Our community became matriarchal during slavery. Y'all know, if you study history, that on the plantation, the Black woman was always put over the Black man to usurp him in every way, right? She was, sometimes able to tell him what to do. You move fast forward to when you saw the black and white movies. Whenever you saw black women and black women and Black men in movies, the Black woman was the maid, the Black man was the and she say, shut up, you old fool, and all this other stuff. And so she was always subjugating him. And then now you move to modern day. I'm not saying that the Black woman is always subjugating the Black man, but what the point that I'm making is all that was by design. But now that we know, what are we going to do about shifting it to where the man is at the helm of our community? What are we going to do? I think that's the better question. Let's see here. Janelle says, there's no excuse. Blacks focus on BS and not what's going on in our family. Absolutely. I always say, you guys know I sit on these platforms. I cannot go out and save the world or educate the world until I educate my household. And that's what a lot of people do. They put on the cape, string it up real tight, and they go out there and try to save everybody else. But it's like, your kids don't even know what you're telling everybody else. Your mama, your daddy, your cousins, they don't know what you're teaching everybody else. So if everybody started at home, educating your own children, disciplining your own children, I think everything else would take care of itself, right? And let's see here. You also say only blacks can help blacks and not politicians. I totally agree. We should be doing for self. That was told to us many years ago, over 100 years ago at this point, by Marcus Garvey. He says, up you mighty nation, accomplish what you will. And while we know that the government owes black people a debt via reparations and a whole host of other things, until we get that, there are things that we should be doing. You guys know that we make about $1.3 trillion in our community as black people every year, but we give away 97% of that to everybody else. And so might we be able to keep some of that by shopping black? I don't know. I think that we can, right? Now, will we get reparations? I think so if we exercise a little bit more unity. But until then, yeah, we need to save ourselves. Don, how you doing? He says, they speaking different about the COVID-19, the truth coming out. It was a big money grab. What do you think, Mr. Mitra K? Well, not to say too much on these platforms, because unfortunately the algorithms do monitor certain things. Of course, I think it was a big money grab, I would say, especially as far as the pharmaceutical companies are concerned. We know that a lot of people were forced to take the jab, if you will, in order to save their job. And we're also seeing where a lot of people are now suing because I guess it was deemed to be unconstitutional. Now, I've also seen a lot of conversation about Donald Trump. Y'all remember when he came out calling it the Kung flu and a couple other derogatory things, basically blaming China, Wuhan is where it came from, for the spread of it. And we've learned that, it was manufactured, I guess, in a lab. So he wasn't too far off, just kind of some of the things that he was saying. But yes, it's definitely a money grab for the pharmaceutical company. Thunder says it starts at home and we need to have traditional nuclear families again. Yes, but Thunder, let me ask you this. We heard this rhetoric on the internet about the passport bros, which are men, and I'll just keep it in our community, black men who are wanting to go overseas to get a wife. Then you have the black women in our community called divestors, in that they are divesting, they're leaving away from black men. They're going to go get a white man or whatever other man, I guess. So as far as the nuclear family is concerned, how do we have a nuclear family if we're talking about splitting apart? Ask yourself that. No other person on this planet, they may have issues with their man or their woman, but they are not talking about leaving their white woman or their white man or Asian or vice versa, or whatever. Like we are talking about leaving each other. And we know that without the black family, then we don't survive. So the other question I think we need to ask ourselves, don't we think that's by design too? That, get them out there. Yeah, don't stop them. Let them keep talking about how they hate each other and they don't need to be together, because if we're not together, then we don't procreate, right? And then what happens to us? We're roughly 14% of the population have been that since the 1960s. I think we have a lot of questions that need answering. But now in this day and age, we're talking about not being with each other. So how do you get a nuclear family if you don't want to be with your black man or your black woman? I don't know. And Janelle, you says, if black stop subscribing to excuses and solve our own problems. Yeah. And, yes, there are a lot of excuses, but there's a lot of truth to the things that we talk about, right? Because a lot of times people will say, oh, you guys are blaming racism for everything. No, racism is not the answer to everything, but racism sure is a big reason as to why we are where we are as black people. For example, Farrakhan always talks about, and the messenger, Elijah Muhammad, says that we did not create the N-word, right? We know the slave master created the N-word, not just the word, but the N-word. But unfortunately, as James Baldwin also said, we act that way. We have embraced the totality of the N-word, right? So we need to move away from that, understand how we got that way, and say, okay, I'm choosing not to be that, right? Gary, welcome back.
I apologize, man. My phone blowing. I had to do a impromptu radio interview in reference to this state takeover. So I apologize. But it's been crazy since this started. Racism exists. I don't care what nobody tell me. I mean, racism is there, is alive and well. You have to be able to identify it. And, the thing about it is like right now in Klein Forest ISD, I have a meeting scheduled, excuse me, with the superintendent in reference to the mistreatment of Black students and Black employees that's been going on in the school district. And you attack racism head on. And I don't play when it comes to racism. I'm going to step off into it, and I'm going to do what I got to do to try to, get it out of the situations that I'm dealing with. But racism is alive and well. I don't care what nobody say. And for those that start a conversation one way, excuse me, they start a conversation one way, and then that conversation starts to turn black and white. And then all of a sudden, well, don't bring race into this. Well, no, hold on. It impacted the situation. So yeah, we gotta discuss it. You may not want to discuss it, but let's just be honest about it. It is what it is.
And Brother Charles, how you doing? He says a lot of people lost out on potential lawsuits because of COVID-19. Yeah, I would say that is true. And Janelle says passport folks are just buying sex overseas. Oh, you treading on dangerous territories. But I'm gonna go down to Thunder. He says I'm not sure what you mean by splitting apart. Last time I checked, a traditional nuclear family is a man and a woman. How is getting married to another group stop it from being a nuclear family? Well, it doesn't stop it from being a nuclear family. But however, are we concerned about Black people, or are we concerned about being with other people? Now, I'm not saying they don't matter. They matter to them. But again, show me, and Thunder, I'm going to ask you, because I love you, baby. I'm going to ask you, what other race do you know of that continuously promotes that their man or their woman not be together? One other race. I don't care if it's a human, an animal, a plant, whatever it is. Name me one other species other than Black people that say, leave your white woman, leave your Black man. Yeah, I know that the nuclear family is a man and woman, but I'm talking about the Black nuclear family. How do we survive?
We're really not surviving too much because things don't look good. I mean, it's just not working right, especially with Black boys who don't have a Black father in the house. And for whatever the reason is, you would rather put him on an 18-year financial plan than to have him there raising his son. You see what I'm saying? But yet you expect for your son to function as a intelligent Black man, but it's things, my Black sisters, that you can't teach your son. You can't teach him everything that you need to teach him to be a man. And that's why a whole bunch of young Black men end up being young Black women.
Yeah, so I think there's a whole host of reasons why boys, in your words, becoming women, I guess.
well, not in a sense. I mean, one, a lot of females, they baby these boys. They baby them, and then you make them soft. You see what I'm saying? And now they got to go out here and function like a grown man, and they can't.
I will say this. I have a daughter, and I've raised, boys before, my nephews. I will say this to mothers who, are single with children, especially if you have boys. I think at a certain age, you need to send them to be with their daddies. I think as you nurture them, as long as you can, and I think probably at the age 9, 10, or maybe even earlier, you need to go on and send them with their daddy. That not sending them with their father does not mean that they never see you. Now they're under the tutelage of their father directly. that is the parent that he spends the most time with. Because I do agree with you, Gary, in that if you as a woman is trying to bring your son up without any male influence or even predominant male influence, you are doing your son a disservice, because the pastor said he disagrees that women cannot raise boys. Women can raise boys, right? Can they teach a boy to be a man? And I would think, if we're thinking logically, as a woman that has never been a man, how can I teach a boy to be something that I am not? What I can do is teach him, and he's gonna, as my father say, children drink from their parents. And if I am the circle of influence of that boy as the mom, he is probably going to drink more from me and acclimate to my ways than he would if he was around a male figure such as his father.
I think that black boys need to, there are certain things that we got away with back in the 80s, especially when I was in school. If you were a single mom, you sent your kid to school and most likely played some type of sport, or he was in a school that had a predominantly male population as far as teachers. He was surrounded by men. I mean, on the interview I was just on, Ralph Cooper asked me how influential were the coaches that coached me. And the thing that I said, they wasn't just teaching football, they were teaching life. So these men held us accountable to every standard. You see what I'm saying? But I just think that nowadays we're finding a lot of excuses as to why the man should not be in the house. A black boy should be able to see his father get up every morning and go to work. He should be able to see his father cut the grass. You see what I'm saying? There are certain things that he needs to see that a man does, so when he becomes a man, he knows how to do it. I said it at my father's funeral. If I can be half the man that this man was, then I'll be just fine. Because it was days that he lost his job, but he was a man, so he would get out and literally pick cans to put food on the table. So that's why when I get sick and people are like, man, you need to slow down. Dude, I don't know how to do that. I've been working since I was 15 years old. That's all I know. That's all I saw him do. You see what I'm saying? So it's just certain things that a woman can teach a young boy. And like you say, it gets to a point where that young man needs to go live with his father.
Yes, and Sister Janelle, I see you say they don't want to give up that child support check. Yeah, and that's true in a lot of cases. But I think if you are a mother out there that's holding on to a son that probably needs to be with his dad and you are getting child support, ask yourself, is the well-being of my child worth less than the check that I'm getting? You know what I mean? Am I willing to give up that money so that his father can use it to raise him into a citizen, a conducive person in society? Or does the money mean more to me? Now, I get it. You're used to getting a check and then you're going to have that shortfall, but hell, you're going to have a lot of time on your hands now because you're not predominantly raising the child. And I would think you would have more money because we know a lot of times child support checks don't cover everything in that household for that child. So you have a lot of more time. Maybe you can go get another job or, apply yourself somewhere else and you'll save money. But at the end of the day, what's worth more, the child support check or the well-being of your son?
When you look at the case studies and the data that's out there, say you got a kid, 15, 16 years old, and he in school and he constantly getting in trouble. The first thing they say, well, a lot of times those kids that do that, their father is not in their life. It's too much information out there for people to sleep on. And I get it that a lot of women want to be single. I get it. But just stop lying. You don't want to grow old by yourself. You don't want to grow old by yourself. I don't give a damn what you tell me. But at the same time, you need that guy in that house, man. And if you feel, oh, I don't need no man in the house with me, well, don't have a baby. Because eventually somebody has to teach this young boy how to be a man. When my mom was getting sick and we knew it was almost time, and she told me, she said, I want you to take care of your sisters. I got one sister. I said, well, I need you to get better. She say, why? I say, I can teach your grandson how to be men, but I can't teach your daughter how to be a woman. I can't do it. I mean, what she got going on, I can't do it. That's gonna take you. And it wasn't that she didn't teach her. She want to go run and do her own thing. And life has been really, really hard for her because of the decisions that she made. So, I just think that, it is what it is. Let me read this comment. I'm gonna put it up. let me put it up. If a black woman is beating a child, C is a mother of the year. But if a black woman is seen verbally chastising his child, black male is, I guess that's what you mean, is seen verbally chastising, he's seen as a tyrant and an abuser. Let's get something straight, man. You got a whole bunch of kids in school that's been labeled special ed because they got disciplinary issues. They're not special. They just ain't had their behinds whooped at home. We don't want to raise our kids no more. We don't want to raise them no more. The Demetri and 05 Star, we come from an era where our parents didn't play them games. The games y'all playing right now, that's why your kids dying in the streets. Because you are allowing the streets to raise your children. So whether you had to get your behind whooped by me, chastised, I didn't care where it was. Wherever you committed the crime, that's where we were going to deal with it at. And that's something that you parents don't want to do. And even some of y'all that are on here watching now, that's your kids and grandkids out here in Harris County doing some of this messed up stuff. But you ain't going to never own up to it because you don't want to look bad or you don't want to look like I failed. Well, kids have their own minds too. You can teach them everything you want to teach them, but eventually some of them go out there and do what they want to do. And they're infatuated with the streets. And a lot of these kids just don't have the street smarts to survive.
And Al, how you doing? It says, Trey went to live with Furious and Boys in the Hood. Absolutely. And that was a great concept, great movie where he imparted wisdom, not only on his son, but his son's friends. He tried to anyway. It's very educational. And he said, Thundy, as far as beating her child and all of that, I'm not necessarily one to talk about beating children. I have whooped some ass before, so I ain't gonna sit up here and be lying to kick it to y'all. I have done that, but as I've gotten older, I just think that we should try to parent more with our minds. And see, the problem is this. I saw a great movie not too long ago called Megan. I don't know if you guys heard about the movie Megan. I impress upon everybody, especially if you have children, to go see that movie. It's about a doll that's artificial intelligence. And it talked about the influence that she has over the child, right? So as I watched that movie, I said, well, we're already there. People just don't realize it. And so I say all that to say, not only do parents need to start disciplining, parents need to start taking those tablets, need to start taking those phones and start being parents again. Those tablets and those phones are the new parent. You as a parent have been replaced by artificial intelligence. You as a parent have no influence over your child. Have y'all ever seen the effects of when you try to take a phone or a tablet from a child? It is like taking drugs from a drug addict. They go nuts, right? That's not concerning to y'all that you try to remove that from them. To me, that says addiction and it says influence. And so I'm impressing upon y'all. I think it's streaming somewhere on the internet or whatever the streaming service. Megan, watch that movie.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's many days that being able to help out with a football team this year and having to go monitor players in class and make sure they're doing the right thing. The biggest problem was the phones. That was the biggest problem, was the phones. They can't seem to put them down. But there are things that can happen. I know when I go to a board meeting, my phone don't seem to work right. That's because they scrambled the system in the boardroom. So won't you scramble it in the schoolhouse? They allow this to go on. But at the same time, you got to teach your kids how to deal with these phones and these tablets in moderation. The phones and tablets is the new crack. It's the new, they addicted to them. The PlayStation 5 is the new crack. The reason your son can't crack my starting lineup on the football field because he think this is a PlayStation 5 game. He doesn't want to work hard. He doesn't want to sweat. He doesn't want to cramp up. Well, all that come with the game, bro. But the ones that buy in, you know, they seem to flourish. But I just think across the board that especially black parents, you need to start doing a better job at raising your kid. The teacher shouldn't have to raise your child. You see what I'm saying? You don't take them to church no more. Whether they go to church or the mosque, you ain't got God in their business in no capacity. You know, so at the end of the day, they need to start being better parents. And that's all it boils down to. You know, we're pumping out more. I mean, three things we pumping out our community more than any other race of people. We're pumping out more dope dealers, more strippers, and more convicts than any other race of people. And the question is that, and I believe this, Demetri, I don't think kids have ever changed. I think the way that we raised them changed. And you switch the game up, and now, I don't want him to catch no whooping like I did. But when you caught it, didn't you deserve it? Didn't you deserve it? So I don't think kids have ever changed. I think the methods in which we raise our children have changed.
I mean, you're absolutely right. My daughter's 30, so I haven't been a parent of a small child in a while. But I think I've observed enough to know that parents nowadays are freaking lazy. I've never seen so many women needing me time. Like me time is when the kids go to school and take a nap. But these kids, these parents and mothers nowadays, me time is a whole week or 2 week vacation. And they mad that grandmom and them won't watch the children. You know, their parents are so self-absorbed, right? You look at most parents, they're in the phones as well. They give the kids a phone for the babysitter so they can be up on, you know, social media doing all the stuff that they need to do. So you're absolutely right. Back when we were coming up, we didn't have as many distractions. Y'all remember when TV went off. We remember that. Now TV is on all day. The phone, even when we got cell phones, they didn't have the apps. And if we did, they were very limited. But now it's just, you could be on there 24 hours, a whole year straight and never have to get off because the information is refreshing and refreshing and refreshing. So you got parents who just aren't parents anymore. They're distracted and they don't care. They're like, go somewhere. Go get on your tablet.
I mean, you got parents that got a lot of other stuff going on. They got their life going on. But what you didn't realize as a parent, that when you gave birth to that child, you gave up all that. All that supposed to go. But you feel, and these parents nowadays feel, no, it ain't gone. I'm going to do what I do. Well, when your child is laying in a coffin, I need you to think about everything you could have done. You think about it then. What could I have done differently? Now you sitting there boo-hooing and crying. But at the end of the day, you failed your child. And you don't want to admit that you failed your child. You didn't have a problem smoking weed with your child. I mean, even though your daughter is 30, I can guarantee y'all don't go to the same clubs. I guarantee you, if she say something a little flip right now, you give her that look and she shut up. You see what I'm saying? See, y'all, I know you a punk parent when you don't know the look. When you don't know how to give them that look and they automatically sit down or shut up, you a punk parent. See, a kid know when you ain't playing with them. You see what I'm saying? Like me, I got to go to practice, and the first day I told them, the boys, because they in the hood, let's get something straight. I don't take my medication every day. Be careful how you talk to me. Don't disrespect me, and we won't have a problem. And I will say that even though they come from the hood, these kids have never disrespected me, and I give them the utmost respect. You know, they've earned my respect. I've earned their respect. I had one hit me today. Coach, are you coming back next year? And this is a kid that I put through the gauntlet. I told him, yeah, and you better be ready to go to work. You better, because my job is to get you to the next level, which is college. And I'm not going to make it easy on you, man. I'm not going to make it, because once you get up there and you got to deal with Coach Prime, he ain't going to make it easy on you either. So why do I need to give you some slack? And as parents, you don't give a kid slack. Oh, you get on my nerve, we'll grow one and I might get on it. But see, that's not even a conversation I'm going to have with a 12-year-old kid. When you say you get on my nerve, I'm going to think in my heart that I went to school for dentistry. Because I'm going to rearrange your grill. You don't get to talk to me any kind of way, I'm your parent. And then some of y'all have allowed this to go on in public. You letting your kids disrespect you in public. So me and Demetri, we already know who getting their ass whooped at home. It ain't the kid. It's you. And we have that issue. We have to fix that issue. Now, do I think that it can be fixed across the board? No. It's too far gone. It's too far gone. And your excuse for not raising your kid, oh, they're going to call CPS on me. I don't care who you call. But you ain't going to live here and do what you want to do. You're going to do what I tell you to do. Well, I'll leave. Well, first of all, you're 16. You ain't going nowhere. You're going to do what I tell you to do. We don't have a plan for our children. You know, back in the day, you couldn't date certain girls because they mamas and daddy thought that, oh, he ain't going to be nothing. You ain't going to be nothing. And a lot of times they were right. So a lot of these, you know, for us, our parents automatically saw college in us because they came from an era where they wasn't allowed to go. That's what they wanted for us. And that's why a lot of us have taken that trek from the ghetto to the suburbs because they wanted us to be better than them. You see what I'm saying? How many of y'all out there with these troubled kids actually want your kid to be better than you? And if that's what you want, you're going to set them up for success. But a lot of the things that these people are doing in front of their children, they're setting them up for failure. They're setting them. You ain't no way in hell I could have went to jail at 15 and called my mama. No way. Because she already told me, you go, you're going to stay there. And she meant what she said, so I wasn't even trying to figure that out. Ain't no way you going to walk in that woman's house and got 3 F's out of 6 classes. You already know what's finna go down. But see, we too soft. We want to we're raising kids under false pretenses. You know, and that's why they gravitate to the quick money on the stripper poles, or they gravitate to the quick money on the block. But you've never even taught them how to work hard. Therefore, they try to find the quickest and easiest way to make everything that they can make.
I totally agree with you. I mean, like you said, it's up to us. If we are going to, and like you said, too, as far as the football team is concerned, you have set expectations. Yep. Parents do not set expectations anymore. And like I said, there's no plans. You know, there's no vision. Most times people have a child, they're like, you know what? I would love if, you know, she would go off and be a doctor or he'd be a senator or whatever it is. But now we're having them. We don't have any strategic planning for them at all. We're just there, you know, and teachers, and I know we have some on here, they love when parents are involved. How many parents, when you have a chance, I know, you know, you work and stuff, but how many of you actually go up to the school and are instrumental in what your child is doing? Do you volunteer? Are you asking the teachers, is there anything I could do? Are you popping in just to make sure your child is doing what they're supposed to be doing? Are you the type of parent that if a teacher calls you and say, hey, Johnny ain't acting right, what is your response? You know what I mean? So you have to, like Gary said, you have to plan to be a parent and you have to have a plan for your child.
You have to. I'm honest with my parents. You know, I got one kid, he's about 5'4", about my height, about my size. And I saw him one day and he plays JV basketball. And I called his parents, look, I need him off that JV basketball team because I say, I don't know any 5'4", 400-pound point guards in the NBA. But I can possibly get him to JUCO or get him a scholarship in football. But when your child shows up on Friday night and he done missed 2 practices, and then why he not starting? He didn't deserve to. I don't owe him nothing. He got to earn it. I don't owe him anything. He got to earn it. And most of our parents, and we found this out this year, that parents, they don't come to practice and support them in practice. When I call my white friends, well, look, I got to go. I'm at soccer practice with my son. I'm at ballet with my daughter. We don't even support them when they trying to do good. You see what I'm saying? And I saw a comment up here from Thunder that says a lot of men want to go back to the old ways, but a lot of American women don't want that. And you can't force a person to get married or raise a functional family. So if you want this, you will go elsewhere. Functional family is the 2 key words that I saw. Well, you can't complain when shit ain't going right then. If you want to raise your family and your children the way that you want, then that is your business. That is your business. But when you are not achieving the things that you feel you should achieve as a family, then look at how you were doing it. Just because you're doing it your way don't make it right. It don't make it right some days. And that's the problem with us. Man, we done talked about so much over the 2-3 years we've been around. We done touched on almost every subject. And when we get to this subject, it is what it is, man. I look at how people, look at our neighborhoods and how we treat our neighborhoods. We're under deed restriction in some black neighborhoods, and you go through there and it look like a crack alley. But then when you go over to River Oaks, you already know what the deal is. You better not throw nothing out the window, because they don't do that over here. So when it comes to raising a kid, I'm not saying raise him like a white kid. I'm saying take responsibility for being a good parent. And I don't think that we're doing that nowadays.
Yeah, and I know we've been over time, so I'll say this in closing to Thunder. I hear what you're saying. You say a lot of men want to go back to the old ways of a lot of American women don't want that, and you can't force a person to get married or raise a functional family. So if you want this, you have to go elsewhere. Well, I would say, again, y'all need to get up off the internet and stop believing everything you see on the internet, because I don't know not one woman that does not want to be married and live in a functional family. And I don't know I know some, but I don't know too many men who don't want to be with somebody and be in a functional family. But I want to know this from you, Thunder. What makes you think you're going to be able to lead overseas if you can't lead a woman over here? Do you really think it's the woman, or do you think maybe it has something to do with the leadership skills? Because, as I said, y'all want to go overseas, not necessarily you, Thunder, I'm saying in general. Y'all want to go overseas and take care of a woman over there, but y'all ain't taking care of the woman over here. So what's the difference?
Because Lil Wing Low going to lead you too.
And she ain't gonna put up with it all right now. As I always tell them, and they, they kind of know me out there in the manosphere is, asking a lot of questions, but she playing the game. She playing submissive and docile, but the minute she get that green card from you, she gonna be like, you ain't gonna tell me what to do. I do what I want to do. We've seen it a million times over. So again, if y'all can't lead a woman in the States, what are you gonna do to lead a woman over there?
And gonna tell him in a heartbeat, you no longer live here. Pack your shit, Tyrone.
Exactly.
They ain't gonna put up with it. Now, I will say black women tolerate far more than some people.
You ain't lying.
That white girl gonna go see that divorce law and get half of everything you got.
And I want to say this too, and I'm probably gonna get in trouble before we get out of here. Black women tolerate the wrong stuff. We tolerate too much of the wrong stuff. You, Gary, you're not on mute. So just in case you didn't know that. Black women tolerate a lot of the wrong stuff. I'm not saying we're always right, so please don't mistake me in that, because I know somebody can say, oh, you're saying black women are perfect. I did not say that. But I say a lot of times we tolerate a lot of the wrong stuff. But those other women, like Gary said, they'll get up on you really quick. Oh, yeah, you going to the man, or put the white man on you. you're getting this divorce, and you're chunking over a bunch of alimony and child support. But the sister, we hold you down when you ain't got no job. And, you know, not having a job is not rare, but we hold you down. You got a place to stay. You got somewhere to eat and all of that. But y'all not going to dare darken that white woman's steps, that Hispanic or that Asian woman's step with just your hefty bag in tow. Y'all not going to do that to her. You know why you ain't going to do that to her? Because she ain't going to let you. But yet, that's like I said, y'all want to go overseas and y'all have all y'all stuff together. Oh, I'm ready to take care of you. Oh, you ain't got to work. I'm do this. But the black woman over here, we done held you up, made sure you was all right and all of that. And then you take us through the stuff. Not all of y'all. I'm just saying from my point of view, as I always say, the black woman is taught that she's a gold digger if she asks you to take care of her and the family. You just want my money. But y'all so happy to pack your bags and get your passport and go over to another country and take care of somebody else's woman. So, and I know you said, I think you're projecting, Thunder. You're saying that to me, but I think you're projecting as well when you're saying that women don't want a traditional family or traditional. That's not true. Most women I know want a traditional relationship. But the other thing I think y'all men need to answer, since we are talking about it, is, you know, what is it that this woman won't follow you? Why won't she follow you? You know what I mean? I know there's a lot of hard-headed sisters out there, so I'm not saying there's not. But for y'all in this projecting, since we're on projection, y'all projected like it's all black women that y'all can't say anything to. So what is it that this woman is not wanting to follow? I know men who got great money and they can take care of a woman, but they don't have one. And I know so many women who would love to be taken care of, just wake up every day, make sure you got something to eat, clothes clean, and, you know, take care of that, all that. But those men are single. So what's going on here?
Yeah. And I agree with you, man. I mean, the bottom line, ain't no woman want to be married to no boy. She don't want to be married to no boy. And a whole bunch of us out here, men, we got boyish tendencies. Is it fair for a sister to get up every morning, go to work, and you laying in the bed? And then when she come home, you ain't even had the audacity to cook nothing. You know, get your behind up and be a man 24/7. Do that, and eventually you will find the right person. But until you start being a man, don't question the ability of a woman. You need to man up. And a whole bunch of us, you know, it takes a lot. It takes time for us men to mature. It takes time for us to get out of our old ways, you know, and some days we just have to. You know, if you want to make something work, you're going to make it work. But I think a lot of times it just does not work because of the communication. Because of I'm a horrible communicator in relationships 98% of the time, because I have a shutdown switch that I will just shut down and I won't talk. I won't communicate. It's not because I'm not winning the argument. It's just I shut down. And if you talking about trying to make something work, all you got to do, if you trying to figure all this out, go find you that black couple that's been married for 60 years. They'll tell you the formula. They'll tell you the exact formula. Now the question is, are you willing to do what they did? Are you willing to do what they've done? But if you're not, then it doesn't work. I want to thank Demetra and my good friend Thadeus Mathews, and thank you for holding it down when I got that call, because it's hot for me right now, man. So, you know, the big thing is the state takeover tomorrow night. I'm going to have a former HISD assistant superintendent, Dr. Kenneth Davis, and my good friend who knows all the numbers, Travis McGee, on the show tomorrow night. It's going to be real entertaining because we're going to give you some information, and be on the lookout for the flyer, because the meeting I went to last night, they didn't let the community speak. So we're going to do our own meetings. And our first meeting is on the 26th of March. And this is how you become proactive as a parent in your child's education. There's no reason for you not to be there. Oh, well, I don't have a kid in the school. You pay taxes, don't you? You pay school taxes, don't you? So if you're paying school taxes, you need to be there too, because this affects you too as a homeowner and as a taxpayer and as a stakeholder. So until tomorrow night is the war zone, man. We'll holler at you.